No, you're not. Well, why don't you start off by telling us who you are?
So I'm Steve Stuart, owner and winemaker at Elevation Cellars.
And how long have you been making wine?
Been making wine over 10 years, something like 11, 12 years. Been in here in Elevation Cellars almost 4 years now.
And so what's the meaning behind elevation and elevation cellars?
So we struggled to find a name. And so there's a French word called élevage, which is a real positive winemaking term that implies the winemaker takes a lot of time and care in going from the grape to the glass. So we have a tagline under our logo called "A Journey from the Grape to the Glass." So I don't make wine, I elevate wine. And then the other elevation link is I'm an ex-ski racer. And I met my wife while I was racing up at 9,500 feet in the Snake River Saloon in Summit County, Colorado, where she grew up. And so when we came up with the name Elevation, we're like, it might not be a great name for a winery, but it depicts who we are. And
that's right.
So we're going with it.
And what kind of wines are you making here?
So I focus primarily on Bordeaux varietals and Bordeaux blends, although I've recently ventured into a Tempranillo and have plans on doing a Super Tuscan. Then I also have just an amazing Riesling that I make.
So what kind of wine do we want to talk about today? I see you have your Monolith. What's that one
so
about?
Monolith is I call it my signature wine. It's primarily Red Mountain grapes. It's the wine I put everything into. I age this in 100% new French oak barrels, very select French oak barrels. We taste through the barrels, and only the best of the best make it into Monolith. So with Monolith, and really with all my wines, but especially with Monolith, I try and make wines that touch every part of your palate, but don't overpower any one part.
Mm-hmm.
So I want my wines to be the wines when you have a special occasion, you think of, I'm going to pull out a bottle of Monolith. If you
Sure.
want to impress people,
That's the one to
pull out
buy.
Monolith.
And so are you always sourcing from the same vineyard for Monolith, or does it come from different parts of Red Mountain?
Well, notice I said it's primarily Red Mountain grapes. Right. We think some of the best Merlot in the state comes off of the Royal Slope. So the bulk of the Merlot from this came from Stillwater Vineyard, although there's also some Hedges and Hedges Bella Villa Red Mountain Merlot in it. But the rest of the varietals come from Red Mountain.
Okay.
So every year I blend it a little bit different depending on what it needs. We kind of start with a Cab Merlot base and then taste through it and add the varietals to try and make it consistent from year to year.
Mm-hmm.
So some years it may be just Cab Merlot like it was in 2007 to all 5 of the Bordeaux varietals.
And what kind of involvement do you have in the vineyard then?
So I have multi-year contracts at all these vineyards, so I get the same rows year after year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I also have help. I have a consultant, Matthew Loso, who's a pretty renowned winemaker. And so just like I'm also an engineer by day, and in engineering I've always taken the stance that I'm not an engineer that pretends like I know it all, and it's the same thing with winemaking. I've still got a lot to learn, and so having someone like Matt around to help me has really added some value and just quality to my wines, and I'm still learning from him.
Sure.
But Matt really helps me in the vineyards. So since I have a day job, he can be there during harvest and throughout the year and visiting the wineries or the vineyards, and so I've learned just a ton about vineyard management from him. So since we have our own rows, we decide, how do we want the shoots trained? On a hot summer, you want to train them a little bit differently than on a cold summer. How much fruit are you going to drop? On a cooler summer, you're going to drop more of your fruit to try and get the vines to concentrate on.
Right. More energy into what's left, sure.
For your premium wines, you're going to drop more fruit so that you have more concentrated flavor in the clusters that you do leave.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of input into how the grapes are grown, and one of the big decisions is, of course, when to pick.
Right.
And
that's what
we
Matt's...
have our own one of the most valuable things I think I've learned from Matt is determining when that is.
Right. So what's the characteristic of the Monolith specifically that you're looking for when you say to yourself that it's ready?
Well, what we shoot for with Monolith, I think I already stated this, is a wine that touches every part of your palate but doesn't overpower any one part. So I want it to be a very smooth and elegant kind of wine. And so we very carefully select each barrel that's going to go into Monolith.
Okay.
And spend a lot of time on our blending process to decide how to make it just the best that it can be with what I've made.
And what would you pair Monolith with?
Monolith is a big, bold wine, right? As the name implies, so it pairs with, mostly the big meat products, right? Like I always say, a rolled rib roast. It's perfect.
Yeah.
But it goes well for breakfast as well.
I'm sure it does. I'll have to try that. So last question then is, where can you find Monolith? Where can you buy it besides here in the tasting room?
So I'm in most wine shops. I'm in all top foods across the state and in Oregon, most QFCs, some of the finer restaurants. And the best thing you can do for me is if they don't have it when you're there, please ask for it.
Okay.
That's the best way to get it in there. Once people taste it, they know that this is a wine they should have in there.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.